Hey, what's up, guys? This is ProjectJ coming at you for the Losers Finals set of Keep Fighting and Nobody Explodes, the August Netplay tournament for Custom Robo. And this is my set versus the Gatekeeper. Gatekeeper is starting off this game with Dowerhead and Metal Bear, so immediately two rather defense-oriented, very trade-oriented builds. Especially Ion, I think, is a very strong gun for something that can trade so effectively because of how strong Ion is, how much damage it puts out. Meanwhile, if there's anything on my team that's not trade-oriented, it's Strike. Strike is something I sometimes describe as simultaneously very strong and very weak. Strike has some of the best movement in the entire game, for sure, at least as far as legal robos go. And it has the collision attack, which is something of a get-out-of-jail-free card for it. But it is ever-presently always one step away from being knocked down. It can't trade with anything. Even a pod that takes very little commitment to even deploy. A single hit will knock this guy down, so it constantly is in fear and can get shut down by a lot of different things out there, especially those spiders that Dowerhead is going to put out, and the long-lasting shots from Splash Gun. You'll see almost every time Strike's on the field, I'm going to basically try to keep away and pressure with bombs and pods. Very rarely am I going to go in, and just right there, I get punished for even trying. So this is how I'm going to try and play the neutral here, is just stay away, try not to get cornered, but really with very little way to pressure, all Gatekeeper needs to do is just dash in, and with Splash, he can really put some damage out. Now that right there, that was probably the biggest misplay of the entire game, and perhaps the whole set. I expected him to charge at me. He was using Splash, and I expected him to try and keep chasing me down, but he didn't take the bait, and honestly, it would have been safer to just use a raw sniper round to pressure from that distance, but, you know, not the decision I made, so unfortunately, it's looking a little difficult here for me, and again, a misplayed collision attack is going to get me pretty hard punished, and suddenly the only robo I have with a lot of HP to use is Strike, which has a bad matchup against both these guys, and I sort of panic, tag out to Halberd there, and that's the end of Game 1. A bit of a wash, but good stuff to Gatekeeper. Game 2, I decide to just swap out Strike and go for Breaker Ion. Now, Breaker Ion, I think, has a pretty good matchup against Metal Bear. And as far as Dowerhead goes, I think as long as I play my cards right, I can win this match. So we're going to start Game 2. A bit of a camping game, to be honest, for the first few seconds. None of us really want to make the first move, but it's Gatekeeper that ends up making the first attack, which I think in the matchup versus Lightning Skies can tend to be the losing move. I think the first one to actually make a play, the first one to fire against Lightning Sky, in that matchup tends to be the one who loses. So right there, it was sort of played out, and now the lead's in my favor, but not so much that it can't be taken away. Right here, he's playing pretty well, dodging around the sniper round, and I panic tag out to Breaker preemptively, and just like that, he gets in front of where I'm going to try to go to fire Ions, and again, just gets in front of me, plays the matchup extremely well, and I just don't even want to be out as Breaker right now. He's completely invalidated that build and made it essentially a 1v2. So I'm going to have to try and win this with Sniper, but a few good Sniper rounds, and there we go. It's looking okay for me, but well done. That was a pretty good jump in by Gatekeeper, and the long-lasting shots from Splash can really keep someone pressured around the perimeter, especially in the corners. It can be a really good gun for trapping, and Gatekeeper uses it pretty well for that purpose. Now, I don't want to swap back out to Breaker at this point because it's so low on HP. I just want to pressure with sniper rounds. And essentially, in the matchup versus Ion, you want to use cover as well as possible. Those shots are powerful, but they're slow. So as long as you're behind cover, you can pretty well avoid them. So at this point, my Breaker is my highest HP build, and an unfortunate use of Titan there, as well as being trapped by the diving pods, puts his Dower Head in pretty bad position, and just like that, Game 2 goes to yours truly. So going into Game 3, Gatekeeper's going to swap out here. He swaps to Metal Bear with Phoenix, and I know I've heard him say that Phoenix is a pretty good gun on this stage, the Castle Citadel. I imagine it has to do with the hill in the middle, because you're going to see that when Phoenix gets fired, it arcs upwards and then arcs back down. So I imagine it kind of covers the center hill pretty well, and especially against Breaker, I'm going to struggle to get up in the air because those Phoenix rounds are, they're always up there, so they can really punish me. A good start to this game by Gatekeeper. However, I think this is one habit that is going to be pretty well punished for the rest of this set. When he's using his splash build, Gatekeeper often wants to dash in to get those hits. He doesn't have, a lot of long-reaching pressure, so when he dashes in, I can often punish with Sniper just on reaction. So as long as I'm playing the spacing game pretty well and keeping out of his effective range, I don't have to worry too much about the splash build. I just have to pressure it with snipers and keep it from getting in. So that's the game plan I'm going to try to have versus Metal Bear Splash. As far as Phoenix, I just don't have to really worry too much. Often the Phoenix rounds don't hit if you don't try to jump into the air. So I just gotta keep moving, man. That's my game plan here. And another dash in. That seems to be a habit that I've started punishing very effectively. Metal grapplers have very few movement options, and their air dash, though it covers a lot of distance, is very committal. Now here, he doesn't want to make the first move. He doesn't want to commit to something because he knows that I can just fire ions and dash out of the way on reaction to that. So Gatekeeper is trying to stay safe and get in, and really, I mean, it was such an attempt, man. With the Metal Grappler's so slow walking speed, he was still closing in against Breaker, but just, he was so close to death, there was really no way to make it happen. So going into Game 4, Gatekeeper has swapped out once again. First build is going to be Seeker Swordstorm. Now, Seeker with Swordstorm is something of a long-range build. It's kind of similar to what Breaker Ion is going to try to bring to the table, but with a lot less homing and a lot less instantaneous pressures. So I just have to wait for him to commit to his swords, and as long as I dash second, I can usually win the exchange. Against this thing, oh man, that was a poor attempt at a collision attack there. Breaker's collision attack is just so slow there. In hindsight, there was really no way that could have hit, but I suppose I was just very nervous about being trapped, so I wanted to put out some sort of invincible frames there. Now you can see one of the weaknesses there of Swordstorm is that even when you're playing defensively, it doesn't put out any immediate hitboxes. There's nothing really there to prevent someone from dashing in. Now he was playing it pretty well there, staying behind a wall, and then covering himself with spider pods to prevent me from going in, but really, when you're playing from behind, when you're on the back foot using Swordstorm, there's very few ways it can actually bring a lead back, because it has very little homing and its shots take so long to be active. If you just keep moving, it can't really pressure you, it can't, I don't know. It's just not a very useful gun when you're behind. You have to be ahead. That's when it can put out the pressure, because then the pressure's on to approach Swordstorm itself. But, there it is. I think a little bit of a misbuild on the final game there. But that's the set, guys. That was losers finals versus the Gatekeepers. So hope y'all enjoyed. I'll see you next time, guys. Peace out.